What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I am joined by the one, the only Slcmof. Firstly, I just want to come out here and say, because I do think this is important, I really am totally very, very happy that he's able to join me. Slcmof, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Really happy, honestly, to be able to talk to you, to be able to do this with you. So I really do appreciate you taking your time to do this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me on. Really excited for the topic that we have lined up for this quick little video today.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing your videos for a good time now, a long time. So it's great to talk to you.
So as you guys can tell from the video title, we're going to talk about, and this is something I think we've probably both done sort of doomsday kind of things before, topics before. We've been, and I think honestly, Slcmof, we've been pretty positive overall on this game. I don't think we're both kind of doomsday guys. I think we're optimistic. We're also we're aware of the situation with what Warner Bros. Montreal has done. We're not taking anything for granted. We're not assuming this is like the greatest game of all time or going to be. But again, with this topic, can they handle it? Now, we talked about, and this could even kind of go into can the game handle its own weight? And that's, I think that's a big thing, because when you look at the internet, right, your audience, right, a massive audience, and you've been around for so long, and also, too, because of what you've done, too, right? You've been around for so long. You've covered, this isn't, your first rodeo in the Batman world. There's been hype for Batman games before, and I don't think it's unfair to say that the excitement for this game is, I think, through the roof, rightfully so, and, they've caused some of it. People like us on the internet, I think, have helped the enthusiasm, right? But ultimately, do you think, Slick, that this studio, Warner Bros. Montreal, who's had obviously a lot of ups and downs, do you think they can actually pull this off, basically, in the end of it?
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think that the hype for Arkham Knight was extremely high. And once this game is revealed and we see, some of the features that the game is offering, and one of the reasons the hype was so high for Arkham Knight is because they're rolling out all these features with the Fear Multi Takedown, Batmobile, and all of those things. And the graphics were better. The map was 5 times the size of Arkham City. So there was a lot to get excited about for that game. But I think that this game now coming 5-6 years after is going to be even more technologically advanced. It's going to be even more advanced in every way. And when we see that trailer, I do think that fans are going to be very, very excited for the game and anticipate it in a way. And that's the thing, going back to Asylum and City as well, is that they were sleeper hits. People were not expecting Arkham Asylum to be one of the best video games ever made. And then even after Asylum, Arkham City, people were looking forward to it, but it wasn't like, oh, wow, this is going to be one of the top 5 video games ever made, which of course it was. So
Right.
they've done a great job at exceeding expectations. With this game, one of the challenges is that we're thinking, oh, W Montreal has been working on this game for 8 years, which is not exactly true, because they were working on a Suicide Squad game. They were working on another Batman game featuring a totally different character. Of course, Damian Wayne is Batman. Now Bruce Wayne is Batman. So they've redone a lot. The question really, I think, is going to be how much are they borrowing from that game that was canceled? If they're reusing a lot of assets, then the game in many ways is going to feel very expansive and like they've worked on it for 7-8 years, even though some things are slightly changed, of course, from that canceled game. If they totally scrapped it, threw everything out, which I find to be unlikely, then it will feel like, oh, they only worked on it for a couple years, and it's like, yeah, it's a good Batman installment. I think that's one of the big things that people don't consider is like, how much are they actually reusing from that Damian Wayne game? Because they've been working on the Damian Wayne game, I think I could be wrong, like 2014, 2015.
Right.
And typically when games are canceled, and it's not really a cancellation per se, because they went from making a Batman game to another Batman game. That's not canceling a game. It's
Right.
just it's shifting directions, which is what they did. And I think that they do have a lot of foundation with. And the other great thing about what W Montreal has is that they have the Arkham engine. They have what Rocksteady's built. We saw with Arkham Origins, they used very heavily, probably too much so, which is one of the criticisms of the game, is that they actually borrow a lot from Arkham City. And they're going to be able to build upon Arkham Knight as well. So I think that this game actually can live up to the expectations, which some people might be surprised for me to say. That one reason I think that is because we really have very open expectations as it pertains to the story. With Arkham Knight, we had such specific expectations for what the Arkham Knight reveal was going to look like, how the story was going to wrap up, and how the Bat family was going to be introduced. With this is a totally clean slate, and they really can set the expectations themselves with the CGI trailer that they drop, and they can really build the expectations from the ground up, as opposed to Arkham Knight, where it's a top-down thing, where the fans are expecting this unbelievable game to rival Arkham City, which of course is very difficult to do because it's one of the best video games ever made. And
Right.
that is where they collapse under the pressure. But I think with this game, they have the opportunity to really craft our expectations from the beginning and actually exceed those expectations.
Totally, and I totally agree, and I think, and what you're trying to, what I think you're getting at too, the thing with the story, and also I think the game itself, because I think that, like you're saying, I think some people think certain things, like they're like, okay, well, I'm expecting this and that, and I think if, as long as we keep our expectations relatively, like you said, like open, like, and you're exactly right, like they get to start from scratch. I think it's gonna just more be because, and I don't, when they're releasing this game, they're a studio. I don't know how much people really care about the studios. You see the stuff with The Last of Us, right? All the hate, and is there reasons to hate the game? Sure. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with anybody who hates certain parts of it. But when it came down to it, the game is one of the best-selling games ever on PlayStation. Okay, actually, exclusive to non-exclusive. At the end of the day, how much do people on the outside really know about things that maybe like us gamers or people that cover things online do? So when we look at it, the story, like you said, open, as long as people, I think, say, okay, they're going to start their own thing. It's going to be, they can have whatever characters they want. They're going to look, I'm sure, different, right? They're going to probably, I hope they feel a little bit different. Obviously, they'll probably have the same fighting mechanics and stuff like that, but you expect improvements. But if they nail that, and as long as, again, people keep their expectations kind of open, I think it'll be fine. I think the biggest thing, I should say, when it gets revealed is the weight of Batman, the name Batman, the comparisons to past games. Like you said, I mean, Arkham Knight, the hype and excitement for that. And then what happened after that? I mean, really, people respect Rocksteady, but actually I feel like because of after Arkham Knight, people, there's definitely some shakiness there that I don't even think is all that earned. I think they did, besides a couple, I guess, key things, right, in Arkham Knight, I think it was a pretty good game. I actually really, really loved that game. So it'll be interesting to see if the Batman name kind of like is over the heads of Warner Bros. Montreal. And also, obviously, this kind of lead up to the game. It's been, I think, nothing short of a disaster. I don't think that's unfair to say. But again, the issue is we're only, I mean, we have channels, right? And they're decently sized big. But at the end of the day, the game sells 5, 6, 7, 8 million. Not everybody's watching our videos, right? They don't know what Warner Bros. Montreal has done in the past. So, that kind of stuff, I feel like it's kind of split because I feel like people have expectations for what the game is going to be like. Do people want a world bigger than Arkham Knight? Bigger isn't always better. I do think open worlds generally, I guess, should get bigger, but I think more filled. I don't even think like, larger radius, like fill it with more things to do. So, ultimately it comes down to your own expectations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's a great point. You have to consider that we're in this minority of people that are very, very interested in the game. The vast majority of people, they walk into GameStop or they're on their PlayStation store and they're like, wow, a Batman game, that looks cool. And they buy it and they play it and they love it. And that's really the experience that the vast majority of people have is they have no idea even who developed the game. They have no idea what went behind the game. They have no idea that the game was canceled and all of these things that we know because we're just really into it and we're just nerds, frankly. But the vast majority of people have no idea about those things. And that's important to keep in mind when people's expectations is that they're purely looking at it from the game quality perspective, and is it something that follows up Arkham Knight? And I think that realistically, they've learned from the mistakes of Arkham Knight as well. That's another thing that you have to consider is that Rocksteady did not have the foresight to know what fans do and do not want to see in a Batman game. They didn't know that the Batmobile would be really annoying to fans. Of course, they should have play tested the game more than they did, but it's also difficult to sell. Like if someone comes in and plays test for 2 hours, they might think, oh, the Batmobile is really cool. But then when you're playing 30 hours and every Riddler trophy is unlocked with the Batmobile, then it's like, okay, actually, this is a little overbearing. And to that point, I think that W Montreal has a lot of information about what fans do and do not want to see, what works with the Arkham games. And with Arkham Knight, that was their step into the abyss with the Batmobile and with, combat evolutions and the story, making the story a little bit more cinematic with more like cutscenes and that type of thing. And they have a lot of information that Rocksteady could have never known. Rocksteady would have never known that it would have been this huge critique of their games that there were no civilians. Like they honestly, they couldn't have even imagined that most likely. I mean, I could see how they potentially could anticipate it, but realistically, I think that came out of left field. I think that they were truly shocked by the criticisms of the Batmobile. I think that they were anticipating that it would be the coolest part of the game and that everyone would love it the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And W Montreal can look at that and say, okay, this is what fans like. This is what they don't like. And that is incredible. Like information is power when you're developing a game and you know what the fans want. And I think that they will be very, they aren't in a position where they kind of have to please the fans because it's been so long and the game has to sell well because W Montreal is not in great financial situation. WB as a whole is not in great financial situation. So
Right.
the marketing and the game itself is going to be marketed to a mass audience. They are going to try to reach as many people as possible. And that ultimately, I think, is why they changed directions from Damian Wayne into this new game, because a Damian Wayne game, it's a bit more niche. It's kind of like if you're a fan of the comics, but otherwise, like we're talking about with those 6, 7, 8 million people that buy the game, they have no idea who Damian Wayne is. They're like, Batman is a son? First I've heard of it. I've never seen that in the movies. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're totally looking at it from that perspective. So they have a lot of information that they can really build off of from Arkham Knight in particular.
Totally. And so, and last part of this, and I definitely do want to hear your thoughts about this. So, when we talk about expectations, right? I think ultimately it does come down to I mean, it is at the end of the day, right? Everybody's gonna have to make their own decision. If you're expecting this game to, blow through your expectations, that's what you're gonna do. One thing I want to ask you is, I don't know if you saw Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So when that game got announced, right? Assassin's Creed, when they get announced, are always, and this comes not just to Slcmof, right? This comes to all of you guys watching too. When AC Valhalla got announced, okay, Assassin's Creed always kind of has events when they get announced, right? They're kind of big deals, right? Even though they kind of fell off the face of the earth, they're big deals. Valhalla, I was pumped. I still am probably going to get it day one, but I was pumped. When they showed the gameplay, they dropped. People were super, super mad, super disappointed because ultimately it looks slightly better than Odyssey, which is not a bad thing, right? Because it's solid. It's Assassin's Creed game. People look at Ghost of Tsushima and say, that's Assassin's Creed Japan. So that's fine, but people were expecting this to be the next gen, which I don't think can ever happen, by the way, for the next couple of years because games aren't being made only on next gen right now. So, asking you, Slick, for Batman, even if this game is both, if this game is only next gen, whatever, do you think that has something to do with it, where people maybe are going into it and saying like, man, this is going to be that next gen Batman game? Because I honestly, like, if you have that in your head, I think that's setting you up for failure, because I don't honestly even think Rocksteady's game is going to be a made for next gen kind of. It could only be on next gen, but I don't think it's going to be, like The Last of Us Part 2. Like, that wasn't possible 5 years ago early on PS4. It's only possible now. I don't think we're going to get the most out of next gen, which is the case for every generation, for 4, 5, 6 years. So if people are expecting this next Batman game, which is fine if you do, I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to, but if you expect this Batman game to be that next gen, like, oh my God, this is it, I feel like that could be setting you up for failure too.
Well, I think you make a great point. You have to consider that after Arkham Origins, they started shifting direction to, what are we going to do next? And they had that short hiatus with Suicide Squad, but W Montreal is a multi-game studio. Rocksteady is a single game studio. They only work on one game at a time. They ship that game and then they work on the next game. That's the way the best high-tier studios do it. W Montreal is a multi-game studio. They're working on multiple games at one time. So as soon as Arkham Origins is published, they're already shifting directions to, okay, what's our next Batman game going to look like? And at the very earliest, those discussions began, or at the very latest, rather, in 2015. So you think they've been working on this game since 2015, and even though the Damian Wayne iteration of it and all that was canceled, blah, 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 they still were, when this game was entering development, it was in the heart of the, next or the last gen cycle, right? 2015, at that point, PlayStation 3 had been out for what, 2 years? Yeah. So when PlayStation 4 has been out for 2 years, you're not even thinking about next gen. But now next gen is upon us. So I think that you make a great point about that. This game was made probably with PS4 in mind. And now they have this new weapon in their arsenal where they can actually, take it to the next level with next gen graphics and other things like that. And I think they will utilize next gen. But to your point, it's not so much like a Grand Theft Auto 5 type of deal where it's like, we know that this is going to be huge on PS4 and Xbox One. And that way it could feel a little dated. I don't think so though. I have a lot of confidence that they will be evolving this because it has been so long. It's been 7, 8 years, and yes, there have been cancellations. There have been struggles, along the way. But I do think that this game is going to be technically beautiful. I think that once again they're building upon the combat of Batman Arkham, which is one of the best combat systems ever made in video game history. And you're really just evolving that and bringing that to next gen, and even slight tweaks to that I think will feel very fresh, very new. And I think with every Arkham game, I never really felt that the combat didn't evolve enough. Like from City to Asylum, they added a lot. From Night to City, from City to Night rather, they added a bunch as well with the Fear Multi takedown, speeding up the combat, and adding tons of new gadgets. That's what they're going to do here. Like, they're going to be new animations, new gadgets, and overall, it's still, if I had to guess, is going to be very similar to the free flow combat type system. but even just small evolutions in like enemy types and things like that will feel very fresh and very new because it's that formula that we love with enough tweaks and edits to it to make it feel fresh. I think that they also once again learned from Arkham Origins. One of the biggest critiques of the game is that it didn't really evolve enough and the combat wasn't unique enough. And they've learned from that. So they have a lot of information here, and that is their real advantage. Going back to the title of the video, that is their advantage. They have all this information and all this foresight of what people didn't like about Origins. They know what people didn't like about Night, and they can apply all of that to this game. And they really have the potential to not just meet our expectations, but exceed it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, guys, let us know in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think Warner Bros., do you think the game itself can hold up under its own pressure? Again, obviously, people's expectations are very much through the roof. Not everybody, for sure. You know, again, it definitely depends on the person. With that being said, the game probably, right, crossing our fingers in case another Doomsday event hopefully gets announced in just, you know, a little over 2 weeks from now. Super, super exciting. Again, just to end this video, well, firstly, make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed here. Have the bell icon turned on, and I hope I don't have to tell you guys to subscribe to Slcmof. I know a lot of you guys watch him. Again, amazing, amazing guy. Really, really nice. Slick, thanks so much for joining me on this video.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on, man. Had a great time.
Thanks. And so, guys, again, let me know, let Slick know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if you guys want to see more of this kind of stuff. Obviously, you've seen that I'm trying to reach out for collaboration, so if you guys want me to do a little bit more of that stuff, totally down for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.